Russia's war against Ukraine will end within the next 6 months. This prediction was made by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on NBC News. He added that he does not approve of the Russian strike on the American enterprise in Mukachevo, just as he disapproves of many other actions taken by the Russian Federation. Vance emphasized the role of U.S. President Donald Trump's administration in efforts to stop the war.
What truly excites me right now is that we currently have a president who is deeply engaged in active diplomacy to diligently try to stop the ongoing killing and whatever the ultimate outcome, whether the war ends in 3 months or perhaps 6 months, I sincerely hope it won't take any longer than that.
Vance added that the final determination of Ukraine's territorial borders will be up to the Ukrainians themselves.
Ultimately, it will be up to the Ukrainians themselves to decide where the territorial borders of their country will lie.
The U.S. Vice President stated that for the first time in 3.5 years of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, the Russians have allegedly made significant concessions.
I'm not saying the Russians have conceded on everything, but they have conceded in recognizing Ukraine's territorial integrity after the war.
J.D. Vance once again confirmed that American troops will not be present in Ukraine. However, Washington will play an active role in providing security guarantees.
The president has applied aggressive economic pressure. For example, secondary tariffs against India to make it harder for Russians to profit from their oil-based economy. He tried to make it clear that Russia could be invited back into the global economy if they stop the killings, but they will remain isolated if they do not stop.
He also added that the U.S. is putting pressure on Russia to bring them to the negotiating table. In Vance's opinion, in the end, there will either be success or a stalemate. If there is a stalemate, then the negotiation process will begin with the application of pressure. This is active diplomacy that should bring an end to the Russian Federation's war against Ukraine.
In the Kuril district of Russia's Sakhalin region, the sale of 92-octane gasoline has been suspended, reported the head of the Kuril district, Konstantin Istomin. The remaining gasoline is needed for special vehicles, he explained. Previously, the Kuril Islands introduced a restriction on gasoline sales to no more than 10 liters per person. Earlier reports from Primorsky Krai mentioned kilometer-long lines at gas stations, and in Zabaikalsky Krai, gasoline began to be sold with ration coupons. Fuel shortages have also occurred in the temporarily occupied Crimea. Earlier, Kommersant reported that due to Ukrainian attacks on oil refineries, the aggressor country Russia found itself on the brink of a gasoline crisis. And not just gasoline. In 67 regions of Russia, there is a budget shortfall. For example, in the Irkutsk region, the budget deficit amounted to 24.5%. In the Kemerovo region, the situation is even worse. The deficit is 34%. Similar problems exist in the Arkhangelsk and Murmansk regions, as well as in the Komi Republic. Experts believe that by the end of the year, the situation will worsen because in December, regions usually spend large amounts of money on paying for government contracts.
Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev stated that after signing the peace agreement with Armenia, the authorities continue to monitor sources of new threats and are building up military strength to ensure security. The statement was made against the backdrop of escalating tensions between Baku and Moscow, as well as threats from Russian propagandists to launch a new so-called special military operation in the South Caucasus.
We must be ready for war at any moment because the way things are going in the world, it is impossible to predict what will happen tomorrow. The guarantee of our security is ourselves, the state, the people, and our armed forces. Therefore, anyone who decides to strike Azerbaijan will regret it.
Aliyev noted that the Republic has already strengthened its army on the Caspian Sea and in other directions, as well as increased the number of special forces and is acquiring modern weaponry.
We do not advise anyone to even think about hostile actions against us. We have strong enough allies, and our position in international organizations is always recognized as fair. Unlike some other countries, we have not seized any foreign territory, have not carried out ethnic cleansing, and have not destroyed a single city or village.
Aliyev emphasized that Azerbaijan does not want war, stands for peace, but must remain vigilant. Earlier, the Russian authorities, through propagandists, threatened Azerbaijan with a special military operation that could begin after the war in Ukraine ends. Russian propaganda has sharply escalated its belligerent rhetoric toward Azerbaijan amid reports that the Republic may lift its moratorium on supplying weapons to Ukraine. These threats emerged after Russia struck facilities belonging to the state oil and gas company Sokar in the Odessa region. Z-bloggers also threatened Azerbaijan with war because of Aliyev's advice to Ukraine to never surrender and never agree to occupation. In a letter to Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Independence Day, the president of Azerbaijan stated that Ukraine and Azerbaijan, in accordance with the norms and principles of international law, demonstrate mutual support and solidarity on issues of territorial integrity and sovereignty. Azerbaijan will continue to provide the Ukrainian people with the necessary humanitarian aid and support.
Russia is preparing to test the Burevestnik nuclear missile. At the Rogachevo military airbase on Novaya Zemlya, An-72, An-26 and Il-76 transport planes, 2 Su-35S fighter jets, and 8 helicopters have appeared, according to the Telegram channel Strategic Control. They were transporting personnel and equipment to the Pankovo and Severny test ranges. In addition, 9 ships were concentrated in the area around the island. The Burevestnik tests may also have been discussed during Vladimir Putin's visit to Sarov, according to an anonymous Telegram channel cited by the newspaper Kommersant. A long-range airborne early warning and control aircraft, the A-50U, also arrived at Rogachevo, Strategic Control reported. These aircraft have rarely appeared in the Arctic since the start of the war in Ukraine. The area west of Novaya Zemlya is closed to civilian aviation until August 25th. In addition, the coastal administration of the Russian Arctic region has warned ships of danger when approaching the northeastern part of the Barents Sea, the publication writes. The Barents Observer reported on the possible preparations for Burevestnik tests in early August, and later Reuters also wrote about possible preparations for Burevestnik tests. Burevestnik is a missile with a nuclear power unit. Russia has already conducted tests of it on Novaya Zemlya in 2019. At that time, they apparently caused radiation exposure to several people. 2 died and 6 were injured. In 2024, Norwegian intelligence warned in its report that Russia would likely continue weapons testing on Novaya Zemlya.
An explosion occurred at the Central Children's Store in Moscow. The store is located next to the FSB headquarters. According to reports, a gas cylinder for balloons allegedly exploded in the store. There are reports of 1 person killed and 3 injured. According to VCHK-OGPU, a 55-year-old FSB officer, Alexei Titov, was seriously injured in the explosion. According to the channel, his bag with his service ID inside was found at the scene of the explosion. Titov's wife told VHK-OGPU that her husband is in the hospital. The Telegram channel, citing the woman, also reports that Titov held a managerial position in the FSB. Earlier, in the city of Balashika in the Moscow region, a car exploded near which the deputy head of the main operations directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Federation, Yaroslav Moskalik, was passing at the time. He died at the scene. Also in Bryansk, Russia, Russian engineer Yevgeny Rytnikov, who was involved in modernizing the occupiers' electronic warfare systems, was killed in an explosion. Meanwhile, Pulkovo airport did not receive or send any planes for almost a day due to a drone attack. During this time, 90 flights were cancelled at the St. Petersburg airport and about 80 flights were delayed by more than 2 hours. Another 42 planes were diverted to alternate airfields. Similar restrictions due to drone attacks were also imposed in other cities. Delays and flight cancellations occurred at Sheremetyevo, as well as at the airports of Penza, Saratov, Nizhny Novgorod, Kirov, Izhevsk, Kaluga, and others. On August 24th, unidentified drones once again attacked Russia. Explosions thundered in the port settlement of Usluga. Due to the work of air defense, the terminal of the gas company Novatek caught fire.
I don't know, it's burning. Novatek, will it launch us or not? The old shift hasn't been released yet, and they definitely won't let us in. That's why I'm having a blast today.
In Syzran, Russia, things were also unsettled. Eyewitnesses reported hearing more than 20 explosions in the city. The Syzran oil refinery, which is one of the key enterprises of the Russian Federation in the war against Ukraine, was under attack. About 1,000 Russian tourists were stranded in China due to a powerful typhoon. Typhoon Kajiki swept across the resort island of Hainan over the weekend. In several cities, trees were knocked down, some uprooted, and cars were also damaged. At the same time, some tourists were caught by the storm not in their hotels. Vacationers told the Telegram channel Shot that they had to take shelter from the typhoon in a shopping mall where they spent several hours. Others complained that the buildings they were in were shaking quite a lot. Because of this, some people experienced panic attacks. Amid the typhoon, flights to several Russian cities have been cancelled. Earlier, due to frequent disruptions at Russian airports, Russians flying in from Turkey had to wait days for their luggage. As reported by the Telegram channel Baza, Turkish Airlines passengers stood in hours-long lines for their luggage and sometimes received it damaged. It was noted that the airline deliberately accumulates luggage and sends it to Russia only once every few days due to the increased number of flight cancellations and delays. Turkish Airlines doesn't even take all passengers on some flights in order to free up weight for extra fuel, which might be needed for the return flight to Turkey in case of another aviation collapse.